Donald, you still keeping that radio warm?
Warm as toast, Commander Bird.
We're passing over our next checkpoint now, so contact the base and give them our present location. Now roughly 500 miles south-southwest of Little America Base, 300 miles to the South Pole. Expect to have clear shot to the pole once we clear the mountains. At present speed...
Commander! Through the clouds! Mountain peak, dead ahead!
What mountain? Good night, where did that one? Pull her up, Vulcan, pull her up!
I can't make it! We're carrying too much weight! We're going to collide!
The voices you just heard were those of the great polar explorer Richard Byrd and two of the crew members of the Ford trimotor aircraft bound for the South Pole. Their mission, to reach the pole for the first time in history by airplane. The place was Axel Heiberg Pass, high in the 12,000-foot Queen Maud Mountains, deep within the ice-bound continent of Antarctica, the coldest, most dangerous spot on the face of the Earth. What were Commander Byrd and those other men doing there? Staring at white death through the frosted windows of an airplane, so weighted down with supplies and wing ice that it had all it could do to remain aloft? To find at least some of the answers, we must go back to an earlier, warmer place in history, the year 1905, in the little town of Winchester, Virginia. This was the year Dick Byrd, then an excited youngster of 17, decided to make a naval career for himself. As he talked it over with his father...
It's all settled then, Dad. The Virginia Military Institute, soon as I graduate from high school, and later, if I make it, Annapolis and the Academy.
Oh, you'll make it all right, Dick. Of course you will. And heaven knows if it's adventure you're looking for, the Navy will give you plenty of it.
Gee, do you really think so?
I'd bet money on it. But what you need with adventure after all the excitement you've been through in the past 10 years, I'll never know. Practically hit by lightning at 10, round-the-world cruise all by yourself at 12, almost drowned in a typhoon before you were even...
But just look at the experience it gave me. Oh, I suppose that excitement must have been a little hard on you and Mom once in a while, but... Oh, well, gee, Dad, you've got to admit it taught me a few things about facing up to trouble and getting along on my own.
Yes, I guess you're right at that, son. Anyway, it certainly didn't do you any harm. Dick, your mother and I expect big things from you in school and in the Navy. And something tells me you're not going to let us down.
And Dick didn't let his folks down. Indeed, he did so well at college that when he was graduated from the Virginia Military Institute in 1909, he was accepted immediately by the Annapolis Naval Academy, where he distinguished himself as a top student. Upon graduation from Annapolis, Byrd became an officer with the regular Navy. When America entered World War I, the young officer hoped to see action at sea. Instead, because of an old ankle injury he'd received as an athlete at the academy, he was given a desk job. Needless to say, he hated the assignment and decided one day to talk the matter over with a naval doctor.
Sir, I know I can't stand watch aboard a seagoing vessel, but I could fly an airplane where I wouldn't have to do any standing.
You think you can make a go of things as a pilot, Mr. Byrd?
I'm sure of it, sir. Look, I'll make a bargain with you. If you'll let me have 1 month of aviation training, I'll show you how much difference it'll make with this ankle of mine. If I can't pass the physical exam after 30 days of flying, I promise I'll get out without another word. Is it a deal, sir?
The Naval Air Corps. Very well, Mr. Byrd. It's a deal.
And so, in the fall of 1917, Ensign Richard Byrd became a student aviator, and in a few months was given the rank of lieutenant as a full-fledged Navy pilot. When the war ended, he was made commander of a U.S. naval air station in Canada. Several years later, still in his early 30s, he was appointed to the rank of lieutenant commander. But neither rank nor reputation was enough to satisfy Dick Byrd. He still wanted adventure, adventure in the sky. Then one day in 1925, adventure in the form of Donald McMillan, a famous explorer of the far north, knocked on his front door.
Commander Byrd, I'm taking an expedition shortly up to Greenland. We intend to explore the great polar ice cap there. No one's ever used airplanes for exploration purposes before, but the way the Army and Navy used them in the last war has me convinced they'd come in mighty handy on our Greenland expedition. The government's giving us 3 aircraft to do the job, and I want to put you in charge of them, if you'll come along with us. What do you say, Commander?
When do we leave, Mr. McMillan?
Thus, Commander Byrd's great dream to explore the frozen wastes of the far north by airplane became a reality. From that day forward, Dick Byrd's life was never again to be the same. Because with the realization of his dream, he had at last found the means with which to feed his almost overpowering hunger for adventure. Polar exploration by air. A year later, in the winter of 1926, Commander Byrd organized an Arctic expedition of his own. His chief assistant was Floyd Bennett, a top-flight airplane pilot and mechanic who understood as well as anyone the dangers of the far north. Between the two of them, they assembled a party of 50 volunteers, tons of equipment, and a new tri-motor aircraft. Then, amid much excitement, their ship steamed out of New York Harbor and headed for the frozen seas of the far north. The following April, the expedition reached its main base in Kings Bay at Spitsbergen, located just 850 miles from the Arctic Circle. Unloading the equipment onto the ice-bound, windswept shore went well enough. But when Byrd and Bennett attempted to fly the airplane off the beach, an unexpected problem developed.
Floyd, I don't get it. I've flown her, you've flown her, and both times she's broken her landing skis. Somewhere along the line, we must have lost the old magic touch.
I'd say the guy who built those skis in the first place lost his. Well, let's quit crying over spilt milk and slap on another pair.
And that's all there are. We haven't any more.
You're kidding. Didn't we carry more than one extra pair along?
Nope. And in the meantime, we've got one big tri-motor airplane to get off this beach, and fast. Any ideas?
Suppose we hunt up the quartermaster and check over our supply list. Something or other on that sheet ought to come in handy.
Good idea, Floyd. But in the meantime, keep your fingers crossed. Because if we can't come up with the right answer in a hurry, we're going to be in real trouble.
The next half hour found the two explorers going over every possible item on the supply list, anxiously trying to find something there which would help them to fashion a substitute for the broken landing skis. Then suddenly, Byrd found what he was looking for.
The oars, Floyd. Right here, item 7. That's the answer. A pair of oars from one of the small rowboats. We'll drill holes in the centers of the oars, shape the ends of them into skis, and attach them to the plane's landing gear. Probably won't win any beauty prize, but I'll bet my bottom dollar they'll do the job.
And the oars did do the job. On its test run, the aircraft sailed down the beach and into the air almost with the ease of a ship equipped with the proper ski-type landing gear. Commander Byrd's idea worked, and worked well. Sometime later, Byrd and Bennett found themselves high above the frozen waters of the Arctic Ocean, bound for the North Pole. Bennett was at the wheel of the plane when Byrd made a frightening discovery.
Floyd, starboard engine's developed an oil leak.
I'll say she's developed a leak. Now what do we do?
Well, we can't make repairs in midair any more than we can land on the pack ice. Think you can try riding her out for a while?
I'll do my best, Dick, but at the rate she's losing oil, we'll be lucky if she flies another 5 miles.
Bennett set his jaw, clamped his hands still more tightly around the wheel of the big trimotor, and flew on through the freezing Arctic sky. Suddenly, the man beside him began to smile. Commander Byrd had found an answer to the toughest problem of his long career.
Floyd, everything's going to be okay. We'll make it to the pole and back again after all.
How do you figure?
Well, at first it was hard to tell exactly where the leak really was. But now the wind's blown most of the old oil away from the brake, and you can see how high up in the tank the hole really is. Take a look for yourself.
Hey, you're right. It's much higher than I thought it was.
High enough so that the leak will stop once the oil gets down to the level of the hole. And that means we'll have enough oil left to circle the pole with and return.
Several hours later, at 2 minutes past 9, on the morning of May the 9th, 1926, Richard Byrd and Floyd Bennett reached the North Pole. And thus, for the first time in the long history of polar exploration, man circled that lonely, frigid spot on the top of the world by air. The flight was made possible with the aid of Byrd's rapid system of aerial navigation and the use of a sextant he had developed especially for flying. With this flight, the airplane was at last recognized as a major tool of exploration. As impressive as his Arctic flight was, however, it was still not enough to satisfy Commander Byrd. For within 2 years, he had organized a second expedition, this one bound for the South Pole. Thanksgiving Day, 1929, found Byrd high above the immense frozen wastes of the eerie, ice-bound continent of Antarctica. To get the ship off the ground that morning, its 3 engines had to be thawed out with a blowtorch. With Commander Byrd in the high-winged tri-motor monoplane are the Norwegian pilot Bernd Balken and 2 other crew members, Harold June, the radio man, and Captain Ashley McKinley, the expedition's photographer. Their objective today is to reach the South Pole by air. Getting there will bring to a climax Byrd's entire Antarctic expedition. As Byrd charts the course, he discusses with the pilot the dangerous, difficult trip still ahead of them.
Balkan, take a look at this map. Now, near as I can figure, we're about here. 5 miles or so dead ahead of us, I'd guess about here, there's a large mountain pass. If we can find that pass and fly through it, we might avoid meeting something too high for the ship to climb over. Think you can manage it?
I'll fly through it if you can find it. With all these blasted clods, I can't make head or tail of where...
The pass! There it is, Balkan, off to the left.
I can't... Oh, yeah, I see it now. Flying through that thing would be a breeze on a clear day, but... Well, here goes nothing.
How's she handling now, Balkan?
Worse than she did upstairs, Commander. 60 below was bad enough, but with all these clouds down here at 8,000, her wings are sure icing up in a hurry.
Got you worried?
Just a little. This mountain pass is so narrow, I can't see how anyone could fly a kite through here, much less an airplane.
Well, you're doing it, aren't you?
Yeah, but I don't know how. With all these clouds, I might as well be blind as a bat. Mountain peaks on either side of us, and I can't even see one of them. Just pray we don't run into something too high to fly over.
How much more altitude do you think you could squeeze out of her if you had to?
In a hurry, very little. Too much ice on the wings and too heavy a load and back. If we have to climb, just pray.
I'll do that. Hey, McKinley, hold out that camera of yours and see if you can get a shot of that wing ice out there, will you?
Do my best, Commander.
Harold, you still keeping that radio warm?
Warm as toast, Commander Byrd.
We're passing over our next checkpoint now, so contact the base and give them our present location. Approximate coordinates 165 degrees longitude west, 85 degrees latitude south. Now roughly 500 miles south-southwest of Little America Base, 300 miles to the South Pole, flying through Heiberg Pass in Queen Maud Range at 8,000 feet through moderate to heavy cloud cover. Expect to have clear shot to the pole once we clear the mountains. At present speed...
Commander! Through the clouds! Mountain peak dead ahead!
What mountain? Good night. Where did that one? Pull her up, Balkan. Pull her up.
I can't make it. We're carrying too much weight. We're going to collide.
Not if I can help it. Harold, McKinley, all the supplies, dump them overboard.
What about the gasoline?
The whole works. Gas, food, clothes, everything.
Right.
Your camera too, McKinley.
Yes, sir.
You fellas cover the back. I'll work up here. Balkan, slow this crate down.
I can't. And he's lower and she'll stall out.
Harold, give me a hand with this slant. Hey, McKinley, get that door open.
Aye, aye, sir.
Push, Harold. Push.
And the sled goes tumbling out the plane door, followed by the gasoline drums, the clothing, the tools, the food supplies, everything that can be thrown overboard to lighten the load. As the last box is sent sailing into the screaming wind, Byrd finally slams the door shut and calls out to the pilot at the wheel.
Okay, Balkan, kick this thing upstairs.
And the lumbering trimotor, now no longer weighted down with its heavy load of supplies, shoots suddenly upward over that towering mass of snow-swept destruction ahead, and then soars into the safety of the ice-blue Antarctic sky. Three hours later, now high over the frozen, mist-covered wastelands of a vast plateau, Commander Byrd takes several observations, makes a number of brief notes, and then suddenly lifts his voice in triumph over the roar of the engines.
The pole! We're over the South Pole!
Thus, 2 years after his historic North Polar flight, Commander Byrd became the first human in history to circle the South Pole by airplane. Upon his return to the United States, a grateful Congress appointed him to the rank of Rear Admiral, brilliantly crowning a life already crowded with countless decorations and awards. Before his death in 1957, Richard Byrd organized 3 more Antarctic expeditions and added still greater knowledge to man's understanding of that windswept world of ice and snow. Within the span of his life, he contributed greatly to the science of aerial navigation, helped develop today's system of modern weather forecasting, and firmly established the airplane as a major tool of exploration. Rear Admiral Richard Byrd, America's foremost explorer of the frozen wilderness and the world's first polar pilot.